Welcome to toy-polloi.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi, and today is a special Q&A video to celebrate reaching the grand total of 40,000 subscribers on this channel. I have to say, when I first started up toy-polloi, I didn't even expect to get 10,000 subscribers, so to be sort of doing a Q&A now that I've reached 40,000 is quite incredible. I want to thank everybody who's taken the time to watch my videos and subscribe and comment on them. It really has been a fun experience to run this channel right from the start, and I was still really enjoying doing it. Over the last few weeks, I've asked people across all of my social media channels to submit questions. I have them all here. There's a whole list of them. There's about 10 pages worth of questions, so I'm going to work my way through as many as I possibly can. So sit back and enjoy the rest of this video. I don't actually have any plans to stop making videos on toy-polloi. I still really enjoy making them. I've been doing it now for slightly over 6 years, and I think I've got sort of well over 700 videos, and each week I seem to have more toys to fix and more things that need to be sort of shown. So I'm just going to keep on doing it. I don't really know what's going to happen in the future, but currently I'm certainly going to keep on making videos and fixing toys. I've been fixing toys pretty much all of my life now. As a child, when we got toys, I got, you know, some toys brand new, but a lot of the stuff that I got, that my mum picked up, came from car boot sales or jumble sales or things like that. So they were often missing pieces or broken then. And as a child, I just used to repair them or make new parts for them, or just turn them into other toys that I wanted. So it's something that I've really always done. My dad was a great tinkerer. He built lots of things with electronics and did lots of DIY projects, and so I think his sort of attitude and way of working really sort of has rubbed off on me and what I do, and I think I'm just continuing his love of fixing and mending things and just doing it on toys rather than on bits of electronics. That's a tough one. Sometimes I come up with fixes for toys and I then go and track down a broken version of that toy because I want to try out the fix. Other times I've got lots of things here that are broken, so I just sort of sit and ponder, you know, what I'm going to do. But a good example of something that I actually had to track down a broken toy because I had a fix for it was Jabba the Hutt. I've got him here, in fact. I recently did a video on how to reattach the arms to a vintage Jabba the Hutt, and it's something I'd been pondering for a long time, and I had the solution, but I didn't have a broken Jabba, so I sort of tracked this one down on eBay and bought it specifically to test if my fix would work. But other times when I'm fixing toys, it'll just be I'll have the toy and I will sit and sort of ponder and try and work out in my mind what will work, and then I'll try it. Sometimes it doesn't work, you know, and I sort of go back to the drawing boards, but sometimes I have an idea straight away and I'll just go for it. It's certainly been an interesting time. It's made it slightly harder to find parts and find broken toys because I would always go to charity shops and flea markets and sort of toy fairs, rummage around and particularly sort of look out for things to work on. But since the sort of lockdown has happened, none of those things have been particularly easy to do. Charity shops aren't really accepting many goods anymore, and they certainly don't have any of the little rummage pots that you can sort of stick a hand in and rummage around for bits and bobs. So that's all stopped, and the toy fairs have sort of ended. So I've been limited to buying stuff off eBay and trading with people, and certainly it's made things a bit slower. In the old days I would go down to a model shop that's fairly near where I live and pick up supplies and paint and, you know, bits of plastic and stuff like that, and now I can't do that, so I have to order everything online, and because it's done virtually, things arrive that may not be quite as you expected. So I'll buy something, it's not quite right, and I have to buy something else. So it's slowed the process down, but luckily I've got quite a supply of broken bits. If I show you a shot down here at some point, it's just a pile of broken toys, and I've got quite a few supplies already because of other projects I've worked on. So I generally have a few bits in, but I'll be glad when everything is back to normal. I think that's a problem for many collectors, is what to do with your toys when you get a lot of them, and I certainly seem to have amassed a lot over the last few years. It's very nice of people to donate broken toys to me, and I try and keep and fix pretty much everything I can, and what I've sort of run out of space for I will pass on to other collectors who I know would enjoy it. My room, as you can see, is fairly full. There's every wall space is taken, and anything I don't have space for ends up in the loft. And I try to rotate my collection as sort of much and as often as I can, so things that are up there get sort of brought out and displayed here. But some things have been in a loft for a long time, and I probably should start sort of passing them on to other people who would enjoy them, because it's always a shame to have a collection that no one sees. So yeah, it's a big problem of having a sort of a large collection. The room I'm in is only about sort of 2 meters by 2 meters. It's not particularly large, and then I've got all my space for filming over here, so that takes up quite a chunk of space. Maybe one day I'll move to a bigger house and I can actually display all of my collection, but for the moment I have my favourite pieces out here and the rest is boxed in a loft, and I will sort of slowly sort of swap them out as I want to see those pieces again. 3D printing is certainly something I want to get into at some point, but really the whole point of toy-polloi is to show people how to fix things with very basic tools and very basic equipment. And I still class a 3D printer as quite an expensive bit of kit, and that not many people actually have access to a 3D printer. So for the moment I'm going to continue fixing toys as I have always done, using sort of everyday items or bits of Lego and things like that, so that people watching my channel don't feel that they can't have a go at fixing their own toys. I want this to be something that everyone can have a go at, and 3D printers, although they are amazing, and I would really like to get one and would find it very useful, I think it actually sort of cuts off the market of people who can then fix toys using the ideas that I try to show them. So for now I'm not going to get one, but that doesn't mean I won't in the future. I don't think there is. I like a challenge, so I've been sent all sorts of toys over the years that I sort of had never really thought about fixing, but as soon as I get them I try and work out how to repair them, because every toy I think has been someone's toy and someone has loved it and played with it, so it's nice to be able to try and repair it so that it can be enjoyed again. I do have toys in the loft that I've been given, and sort of things that I'm still pondering how to fix them. So there are some things I haven't yet fixed that I will get round to. I know a lot of people are asking me to cover Ghostbusters toys and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and things like that, and I will get around to them at some point. So I don't think there's anything I won't fix, just I haven't had enough time to try and fix them yet. Yeah, I tried to keep in touch with some of the people I know in Japan. Obviously I've got friends out there, and Ishii, who runs the shop Toy Cat Showcase, is a good friend of mine now. I've been sort of meeting up with him for the last few years, so I've actually bought some stuff off him recently that he's sent over, and hopefully when all this settles down we'll get back out there and I can do some proper toy hunting again, and also catch up with all my sort of friends in and around Tokyo, because it's really nice to go to somewhere like that and chat to people who have the same sort of love of toys that I do. So yeah, I have been keeping in touch with them, but I can't wait to get back there. Generally I have to say people are really interested that I collect toys. I think most people assume that sort of men of my age should have a hobby which includes sport or football or just going down the pub drinking, but I have a hobby which includes fixing old toys, and they generally, when I mention that, they want to come and see my collection and sort of are amazed at what's in here and sit sort of looking at this stuff and going, oh well, I had that, I had that, I had that, oh I wish I had that. So it actually is a great talking point, because it does bring back people's memories of their childhood. You get the odd person who thinks it's a bit weird, but then I think it's weird if you spend all your time watching football. I've never been interested in sport or things like that. I have an interest in making and repairing things, and I like to be very creative in what I do. So generally people are very appreciative of my hobby, and they like the fact I fix toys, and they like to see my collection and what I have around me. Yeah, there are loads of pieces that I sort of really cannot find the parts for. I'm going to show you two here, which is from one sort of particular toy line that I collect, and that is Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I have Tiamat the dragon, which I've had for quite a few years, and I'm still trying to find the wings for her. It's almost impossible to find. It's such a rare toy, so it's hard enough to find the toy as it is, and finding the wings I just don't expect ever to find it. And then this is another toy. I had this as a child. This isn't actually my childhood one, but this is the shield shooter version of Ogre King. So he's a sort of neon colour toy, and I still need to find all of his weapons and accessories. It's just one of those figures, if you find them, generally people ask sort of so much money for it. So for the moment, I've got a version without any of the accessories. At some point I may get lucky and start to find sort of weapons for him, but in the meantime he's still in my collection because it's still a figure I absolutely love. Likewise with Tiamat, even without the wings, it's a great toy. You never know, I may find them, but I may not. It doesn't matter. They are still items that I love, and they're still sort of great to be on display here. I think I may have answered this before, but it's a play on toy-polloi, which means the many. So toy-polloi as in sort of many toys. And it was actually Mrs. Toy-polloi who came up with this. When I first sort of set about setting up the channel, we were trying to think of a name, and she came up with that. So that is why it's called toy-polloi. Oh, most definitely there are things that I've not been able to fix. I've got a whole pile of stuff down here of sort of future projects, things that I'm still trying to work out ideas for, sort of ideas of ways that I can fix them. So they haven't been fixed yet. You never know, I might come up with a solution, but currently there are sort of projects here. My good friend Jeremy from Tokyo Toy gave me some Ghostbusters figures, and I think there's a problem with the proton packs always having sort of broken clips on them. They're supposed to clip onto the arms and clip on the back. I'm still trying to work out a good way of fixing those, and I've had those in my to-do pile for about 3 years now, and I know every time I speak to him he says, when am I going to get round to fixing them? And the answer is, well, as soon as I come up with an idea. So yeah, there's certainly things that I can't fix. Whether they never get fixed is a sort of a long-term matter. Hopefully at some point I'll come up with solutions to them, but for now I haven't been able to fix them. That's actually quite an easy one. I've got 2 projects recently that have really sort of stretched my abilities, and I found quite stressful sort of when it comes to fixing them because they've just been so annoying and so many bits keep breaking on them. The G.I. Joe Killer Whale that I covered recently, there were so many pieces on that were broken and needed fixing, and every single one had to have some sort of different solution for it. And the final pieces on that are the sort of the propellers and blades and fans and stuff at the back of it, and it's just such a fiddly toy, so many little pieces, and it's also precariously put together with tiny little pieces. And I was actually quite relieved to get that project done because it was just an awful lot of work. And then in the last week I've been working on making some new tabards for a vintage Action Man Space Ranger figure, and that seemed like it would be a very easy job. I got an idea at the start, but nothing was working, and I ended up having to buy lots of materials, and things that I bought then didn't work, and it was just a frustrating sort of project. But in the end I got it to work, and I was completely relieved that that I'd done it and it was all done. Yeah, there's quite a few times projects get quite frustrating, but those are the 2 most recent ones that I just think, oh God, I'm so glad that's all done. Again, a couple of recent ones, just because the projects I've been doing have been sort of more complicated. I think the Chewbacca bandolier that I made, I was so pleased with how that came out. That had been a long-term project of something I wanted to do. I'll bring one up here so you can see. So this is a 12-inch or 15-inch vintage Kenner Chewbacca. And making that bandolier from scratch was a really enjoyable project, and I'm really pleased with how well they came out. So that's a project that I'm still really quite chuffed with, and it came out far better than I'd ever expected it would. And yeah, the end result is this. It just looks great. And then another one has to be Action Man's Solar Hurricane, which is this toy here. Mainly because this was a grail piece of mine, something that I wanted to get back in my collection for a very long time. It was just really fun to fix, some nice interesting sort of repairs to do, repairing these ejectable pods, and then making this nose cone from scratch. Not something I'd really done before, so I thoroughly enjoyed doing that, and I thought the end result ended sort of really nicely. So these are 2 sort of projects that I'm really very sort of pleased with how everything came out. Oh, there's plenty of toys that I'd love to get in my collection that sort of never made it here, or that were very hard to find. The cartoon series Ulysses 31 had some fantastic toys made by a company called Poppy. They were mainly released in France. I think they did get a brief sort of release here. The Odyssey spaceship from that line absolutely is a sort of one of my grail pieces. I do want to get actually any of the sort of figures and vehicles from that. I would be happy to have them. So far I've managed to pick up one small little vehicle from that line, but I would absolutely sort of love to have more of it. There are others. I'd actually written a list down here of them, but that's the biggest one for me, is Ulysses 31 toys. Oh yeah, there's quite a few. As a child, I would have wanted Ghostbusters toys from the movies. I loved that film, and there was nothing around. It was only when the cartoons came out that they started producing sort of toys for it, which didn't really look like what I wanted. So Ghostbusters would have been one. And the sort of puppet animation series Starfleet, which was, I think it was a Japanese sort of French combination of thing, that had some fantastic ships, and the X-Bomber that turned into the Die-X robot. Those, I would have loved toys for that. They were some sort of Japanese ones that you can get, which are incredibly hard to get anyway, and only available in Japan. But if they'd released toys for that as a kid, I'd have had all of them, because I love the show and I love the design of those ships. So those are probably the two main ones, but I'm sure there are plenty of others. That's a very interesting question, because I've fixed so many toys. Sometimes I'll go back to a toy that I've fixed once and then fix it again differently when I've learnt a sort of new method or come up with a new idea of fixing it. So I never give up on a toy, but I don't think I've fixed anything that I've sort of regretted. Generally, if it's broken and I fix it, then I always think that's a bonus, because it means that it is usable again. So no, I don't think I've ever sort of regretted doing it, but I've certainly gone back and repaired things a second time just because I have a better way of doing it, or my skills have improved or something like that. But a lot of the stuff here has been fixed once, and that's how it's been left. Oh, for interesting fixes, I like things with mechanical sort of mechanisms or stuff like that you have to take apart, and there's lots of gears inside. Those are always very intriguing to me. Things like the Talking Action Man toys, those I love fixing just because they're so intricate. And sometimes they can be very frustrating because they can be almost impossible to fix because there's so many little gears in them that break. But I like working out the mechanisms and where things go and where sort of things should be to get them to do what they do. So mechanical toys like that are always very interesting to me, and anything as well with a little wind-up motor, I like looking on those. A lot of the time they are very hard to fix because the parts aren't sort of designed to be taken apart, but I like these sort of mechanisms and ingenuity that people have used to create these little sort of wind-up motors, and the little motions that they manage to get out of them. It's always very fascinating to work on stuff like that. For me and for my collection, not really. I like all sorts of toys, and if they're a bit broken or sort of got bits missing, they're just future projects. So I've got some very sort of broken or sort of damaged things here, or things with loads of pieces missing. I still enjoy them, and at some point I hope I will sort of finish them. I'll show you some that I've got behind me. I collect these cyborgs and the mutons, which is a sort of weird toy line, and for years this is as much of a muton as I've had. He's missing his arms, he's missing his feet and the end of one leg. I've just not been able to find any parts for him, but it doesn't mean you can't enjoy a figure like that. Maybe he doesn't display particularly well, but I would still really like it. So I've got quite a few of those sort of bits around, you know, sort of missing pieces. There's another one, you know, missing arms and legs and feet. Yeah, I just like them as they are. At some point I may find pieces for them, but if I don't, then they're still nice pieces to display. They still have a sort of interest to me. So, but yeah, they can be as wabby-sabby as sort of anything really. I can still enjoy them. I have covered a few girls' toys in the past on the channel. I've done one for the Golden Girls toys because the legs sort of broke off those, so I've done a fix on those. And I've also done some repairs on the Pippa dolls that Palitoy made back in the 70s. I had a little pink Land Rover that needed a lot of work, so I covered that. But there are other channels that really specialise in fixing sort of girls' dolls and the hair and stuff like that. I would love to cover that, but they're so skilled at what they do. I'm going to leave it to them for the moment. this is another thing I've covered it previously in one of the Pocket Money Memories episodes, and yes, I did have a sort of a key moment that restarted my toy collecting, and that was picking up a Star Wars AT-ST. I went to a car boot sale with some friends, and that was a toy I'd always wanted as a child and I never had, and I saw it at the car boot sale. It cost me £5. I bought that, and I think I bought a Biker Scout for 5p as well, and those two items then started my sort of adult toy collecting journey, and from there, this is what has happened. It's sort of grown and grown, and yeah, I blame the AT-ST that I picked up at a car boot sale. I'm not sure it's the unlimited budget that would be the problem. It's the sort of limited space that I have to collect. But there's certainly some items that I'd like to have in my collection that are out of my price range. I would love to get the last 3 figures from the Black Hole. That's Old Bob, the Humanoid, and Star. I think they were only released in Canada, so very limited numbers, and those go for crazy amounts of money. They also make a larger version, which I've reviewed, which was an Italian release, I think a company called Gigi. I've got one of them here. They made a Vincent and a Maximilian of him, same sort of size. Again, those are just sort of out of my price range, but there's probably other things as well, but they're the ones that sort of spring to mind, mainly because I've been fixing Black Hole figures recently, but those certainly would be nice items to have. Oh, that's a tough question. I like all toys, but really, if I had to pick one out of those, it would be Star Wars, just because that was the sort of the starting point for my adult collection. I didn't get back into Action Man until a couple of years ago when a friend gave me an Action Man. I remembered how exciting he was as a figure, but the bulk of my collection really has to be sort of vintage Star Wars stuff. I just love those, the ships and the sort of figures and the vehicles, everything about Star Wars I really enjoy. So it has to be that, although Action Man is a close second. I have very few of the toys that I grew up with. Most of them got sold off. When I reached sort of teenage years, my sort of interest changed and I sold them off to pay for computers and remote control cars. So I've only got a couple of things left. I think I may have shown some of these in a previous Q&A. I have my original Zarak, which is a Dungeons and Dragons figures. That's the one I remember buying as a child, and this is him still with his weapon, so that's an original toy. And I also have my original Yoda, which is just over here, so another tiny little figure, but that is my original childhood Yoda. Otherwise, everything else in this room really has been stuff I have had to rebuy over the years to add back into my collection, things that I've remembered, and there are still toys that I remember having as a child that I've not been able to find again, but hindsight is a great thing, and as a child my interest changed, and there were things that I wanted more than the toys, so I sold them off, and you know, that's what happens I think with most people. They just need the money to buy something else. So sadly I've only got a few things from my actual childhood here in my collection, but that doesn't matter. I've got lots of things to remind me of it now. Oh yes, lots of Grail pieces. I think I've mentioned a few sort of previously in this video, some of the Ulysses vehicles and that, but there are other things, sort of strange things that are probably easier to get than that. I still would like an Action Man command bunker. I had that as a child and I thought it was a fantastic toy. And then I used to, as a kid, love Fraggle Rock, and I had a set of 4 wind-up doozers that were made by Tomy. And again, those sort of have been lost to the sort of time, they've been sold off, but I'd love to have those again. It's not a sort of toy line I would particularly collect, but I just remember having great fun with these wind-up doozers, and so those I'd want. I've also mentioned the Black Hole figures. I still need to get those. I've got Cyborgs here, missing pieces. I love to finish those. I love another Henshin Cyborg, which is this Japanese toy here. I've only got one at the moment. It's pretty battered. I'd love to get sort of a boxed version of that, just because it's such an amazing toy. So yeah, Grail items, the list is sort of growing. In fact, this week someone showed me a toy from Battle of the Planets that was a toy of 7 Zark 7. I never knew existed, and now I've seen it. It's on the list because it just looks amazing and I'd absolutely love to have it, but again, it's almost impossible to find. I've already been looking and just no one has it, so that's been added to the Grail list, and the list is growing, and I'm sure it will never end, because I see new toys I think, oh, just got to have that, and it will get added at some point. I do the odd custom on figures, and especially on ships. It's my sort of customs tend to be adding stickers and lights and things to the ships, because I always think the figures themselves are really nice, and they've done a tremendous job on most toy lines. I think the figure's good, but especially with like old Star Wars stuff, the ships, there's always lots of empty space in them and places where you think, oh, I could just add some more to it. So they're the sort of customs I do, adding new stickers and details to things, just because that's what I like doing. I'm making things, sort of making weapons and stuff I used to do for sort of toys and that, but now I've moved on to custom stickers and backdrops and floors for things. I think that's really what I enjoy doing, and then it gives me a better place to display my toys on. I did exactly the same. Me and my brother always used to fight over who got to open the cornflakes box to see what the toy was in there. There'd always be little plastic figures or some sort of lenticular card, or maybe a little submarine that you put some bicarbonate of soda in, and then when it went in the water it sort of moved up and down. Those sorts of toys I loved, and I was buying them right up until possibly the early 2000s, because at that point the Lost in Space movie came out and they were doing lenticular cards in, I think it was Kellogg's Frosties or something like that, so I used to buy those just to get the lenticular cards. I'm guessing the reason that they don't do it now is advertising rules, especially here in the UK. You're not allowed to advertise sugary products to kids, and putting a toy in a box of cornflakes is essentially saying, come on kids, get your parents to buy me so you can eat this sugary breakfast cereal. So I think that's probably the reason that they stopped doing it. It's a shame, because I used to absolutely love getting those. I think they even did letter sets in them. I remember the backs of the boxes having cardboard sort of drawings of things, and you could get the letter sets and then rub them on that. So some great times and some great memories. That's an interesting one as well. If you're doing it for money, then it's got to be Star Wars figures. Go and buy as many Boba Fett's as you could back then. Bring them back now, you'd be a millionaire. But I think for me, it would be things that I just still can't find. Things like penny racers and LJN's stunt riders, or those sorts of things. Little toys that no one else seems to remember, but I do. They're not particularly valuable. They weren't expensive then, and they're not expensive now, but I just can't find them. No one seems to particularly collect them. They get lost in other collections. So I would go back and buy the things that I struggle to find now, that are sort of little throwaway toys rather than the big things. Everybody collects Star Wars, so there are a lot of Star Wars figures around. It would be the little bits that nobody else bothered to collect at the time, or nobody sort of really remembers. So that's what I'd go and buy. I just tend to try and ignore them. It's part of running any sort of forum or channel on the internet. You'll get lots of nice comments, but every once in a while you will get some sort of nasty, hate-filled comment. That is just the way the internet seems to work. Generally though, if it's someone being sort of picky about what I do, I just sort of brush it off, because everyone will have a different way of doing things. Lots of people comment on the way I speak and the way I pronounce things and the way I sort of voice my ideas, and that you just have to ignore. That's just people being generally rude. I find though, if someone comments on the way I use Photoshop and they tell me that I'm using Photoshop wrong, it just makes me want to use it even more wrong in the next video, because I don't actually believe you can use a bit of software wrong. If you're doing artwork or creating some piece of artwork, as long as the end result is what you want, then you're using it right. That's like saying to someone you're using a pencil wrong. You can't use a pencil wrong as long as you create the thing that you're trying to create. So when someone says to me, I'm using Photoshop wrong, I'll use it even worse the next time, just because it makes me laugh. The end result is what I want it to look like. And so, sometimes I just play on what people say about the stuff I'm doing, but generally I just try to ignore it and carry on making the videos I want to create. Yeah, collecting is one of those things that really the main thing you have to do is be very patient. There's no way of rushing it. If you haven't got much money, just be patient. Things do turn up. But also be quite creative when you're searching for toys, especially if you're using something like eBay. Don't search for things like Star Wars. Just search for something like space toys or old space toys, and just be a bit creative in how you go about searching for them. Because what you're aiming for is finding a listing where someone who is selling it doesn't know what they're listing, and so you'll just have to see that item, and you can still find great things like that. I've picked up quite a few of the 12-inch Star Wars figures because people just list them as like Kenner doll or something like that because they don't know they're Star Wars. So be creative in what you're searching for, and you can still find bargains. But really, with toy collecting, it is about being patient. Things come and go, and also prices go up and go down, so some things at the moment are quite expensive. I just don't even bother looking to sort of buy them. I'll wait, because give it another year, prices will drop and I'll be able to pick up the things that I needed. I specifically buy the parts I need. If you go onto eBay, or there's places like Bricklink, you can search through and find very specific items. So I have a little box here which I've shown in many videos, and these are the parts I've bought. I'll see something that I think will do the job that I need, and I will go and buy a few of them so that I can work and see what happens. And I don't generally buy the kits because there are so many people selling separate parts out there. That would be a very hard one to answer because I've been fixing toys for so long. I really can't even sort of think back. It would probably be a Star Wars toy, just because they're the sort of main chunk of my collection, and it would probably have been something like making reproduction stickers to go on a ship. I remember, I think the first wiring I bought didn't have any stickers on it, so I found a scan that someone had done and printed those out. The quality wasn't great, but it sort of made the ship look quite nice, and I think over the years I've replaced those with better ones. So probably something like a Y-wing in sort of my adult toy fixing time. But as a child, I don't know, it would have been a Transformer or something like that, something that would have come without stickers, and I had made new stickers for it, or the paint would have been damaged and I'd have had a go at repainting it. For me, it's got to be Funko Pop vinyl. I've got absolutely no idea why people buy them. They look all the same. People are spending loads and loads on buying big collections. It just looks like it's going to be something that will be what I would class as future landfill. At some point, no one is going to want them and they're all going to get chucked away. They are just the modern day Beanie Baby. Yeah, there is always a point of no return when you're doing something. Generally, when I'm cutting pieces off an old toy, if I've got an idea of how to fix it, but it requires cutting something away from the old one, that's always the scary moment, because if it goes wrong and your idea for a fix doesn't work, then you've sort of almost broken something more than it was broken. But really, you've just got to sort of go for it. So I just try and just forget those thoughts and just go ahead, make the cuts, and hope that everything's going to work out. One day I'd love to work on sort of my own toys. I do little sort of custom things, as I've shown, stickers and sort of repainting things. But yeah, it would be fantastic to make my own toys or make my own toy range. As yet, I have no plans to do it. But, you know, if someone offered, or if a toy company said to me, would you like to come and make some toys with us? Yeah, I would jump at the chance. I've spoken to my brother fairly recently about this, because I've shown him some toys that I remember us both having and playing with, and he had very little recollection of what they sort of were, or, you know, even that we had them. I think he just had different interests as a child, and certainly, you know, now he's an adult, he doesn't have any interest in the sort of toys really that I fix. So I don't think he'd be that interested in coming on, because he doesn't really sort of remember the same things that I did. It obviously had a great impact on my life, all of these toys, whereas for him it just didn't. Honestly, no, I never thought that toy-polloi would ever get this sort of big, or have as big an audience as this. I was suggested to me to start toy-polloi by James from the YouTube channel X Robot, James Bruton. He came over one day and saw my collection and saw what I was doing and said, oh, you know, people would be interested in that. Why don't you start making videos? And that's why I started. And for the first year, very few people watched it, but over time it's slowly built up, and there's now, well, as we are here with the 40,000 subscribers Q&A video, there's a lot of people who have watched my videos, and I get messages every day from people all over the world asking questions, and I try and help as many people as I can with sort of suggestions on how they can fix stuff. So yeah, at the start I didn't believe that I would still be doing this 6 years later, but I am, and more people are sort of coming on board and getting involved in repairing old toys, and it seems to be quite a growing movement. So I'm really sort of pleased and chuffed that everybody has sort of taken toy fixing on board and is enjoying it and sort of doing more of it. So let's hope over the next 6 years even more people sort of come along to toy-polloi and subscribe and keep fixing those old toys. And that's it for the 40,000 subscribers Q&A video. Thanks to everybody who took the time to send in questions. There have been some really interesting ones and ones that I've had to think about sort of working out what the answer would be or what I even thought of them. So thanks to everyone who took the time to send in a question. Hopefully there'll be another one at maybe 50,000 subscribers or even 100,000 subscribers, who knows. But as I reach those milestones, and if I've got the time, I'll do another Q&A video. And I just want to say as well, thanks to everyone who does take the time to watch my videos and comment underneath them and share them. It really is lovely to be able to sort of chat to other toy collectors and other people who fix and repair toys. And as I say, I do try to help and I do try to respond to as many people who get in touch with me as I can. If I don't respond to you, I'm really sorry, but some days I just am absolutely swamped by people messaging me with questions about how to fix toys. But I will honestly try my best to answer and respond to as many people as I can. I do hope you've enjoyed this video as well, and if you do, hit the subscribe button, tap the bell to be notified each time I upload a new video, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching toy-polloi. Subscribe for more great videos. You can also follow toy-polloi on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.